My friends, the United States Air Force made a drastic and quiet decision years ago. They removed all nuclear weapons from one of their deadliest strategic bombers. They literally neutered the machine, took away the atomic apocalypse power from the B-1B Lancer. And for many generals and defense analysts, that was the end of the line. The plane was destined to become scrap in the Mojave Desert aircraft graveyard. But what happened to them after this denuclearization shocked the military world. While mainstream media and internet experts only talk about the invisible B-2 Spirit bomber or the classic and old B-52, there is a supersonic monster flying low, tearing through enemy radars and doing the dirtiest, heaviest, and deadliest work of modern wars. The B-1B Lancer has always been considered the black sheep of the Air Force. A project that was canceled, resurrected, criticized by Congress, and almost discarded. But today, at this very moment, it is the tip of the spear of the Air Force. It is the one testing the new hypersonic missiles of the United States. And more importantly, it is the one bombing Iran in Operation Epic Fury. And I'm going to show you how a plane that was born to drop nuclear bombs on the Soviet Union became the most delicate and devastating conventional weapon in the Middle East. Stay with me, because the engineering behind this machine will change your view of modern warfare. Now subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like on the video. Before we get into the technical details of this war beast, I want to know your opinion. Do you think the United States should return nuclear weapons to a B-1B Lancer now that tensions with Russia and China have exploded? Comment down below. Today, the debate is for those who understand strategy. For you to understand the raw power of this machine, we need to go back in time and look at the Cold War chessboard. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the Pentagon's military doctrine was very simple and arrogant. Fly as high as possible. And the legendary B-52 was designed exactly for that. It reigned supreme in the stratosphere, relying on extreme altitude and speed to protect it from any communist threat. But the Soviets weren't sleeping. They were building a frightening air defense network. They developed radar-guided surface-to-air missiles that changed the rules of physics on the battlefield. And proof that the American doctrine was wrong came in 1960 with a brutal reality check. An ultra-secret American reconnaissance plane, the U-2, was shot down while flying in Soviet airspace. That Soviet missile destroyed much more than a spy plane. It destroyed the Air Force's confidence. The Pentagon went into a panic. Extreme altitude no longer guaranteed any safety. The sky had become a deadly trap. And at the same time, intercontinental ballistic missile technology was maturing rapidly. The politicians in Washington began to question, why do we need manned bombers if we can simply push a button and launch a ballistic missile? But the military strategists stood their ground. Ballistic missiles are dumb. They can't be called back after they're launched. A manned bomber offers flexibility. The problem is that the B-52 was excellent up there, but it was an easy and clumsy target for low-altitude bombing. The Air Force needed a radically different operational concept. They didn't want to fly high anymore. They wanted a machine that could fly fast and extremely low, practically scraping its belly on the ground, using the terrain itself as camouflage, and heavy electronic countermeasures to penetrate the most contested airspace in the world. And it was from this desperate need that the B-1A program was born. In the early 1970s, the manufacturer Rockwell International delivered a design that was pure science fiction for the time. Well, even today those lines are unique. They created an aircraft with variable geometry wings. And then you ask me, Chimo, what does that mean? Well, it means that the plane could spread its wings to take off from short runways and cross oceans while saving fuel. But when it was time to invade Soviet territory, it would pull its wings back like a diving falcon and accelerate at supersonic speed. It was powered by 4 massive turbofan engines with afterburners. And the brain of the beast was a sophisticated terrain-following radar that allowed the pilot to fly just a few meters above the ground in the dark, in the middle of a snowstorm, automatically dodging mountains. In its original concept, the B-1A was the messenger of the apocalypse. A nuclear launch platform designed to carry gravity bombs and short-range nuclear missiles straight to the heart of Moscow. But politics is more lethal than any missile. The development costs of the B-1A started to skyrocket. Technical challenges piled up, and American intelligence discovered that Soviet radars and interceptor fighters were evolving too quickly, eroding the bomber's advantage. By the mid-1970s, air-launched cruise missiles began to be seen as a cheaper and more efficient alternative. So, when President Jimmy Carter took office in 1977, he reviewed the strategic forces and made a decision that infuriated the military. He canceled the B-1A program, he cut the funding. The focus shifted to cruise missiles and secret projects that would lead to the stealth bombers of the future. The B-1A was dead. Do you think Jimmy Carter made a historic mistake by canceling the original project to save money? Or was he right to focus on cruise missiles? Comment here. Your strategic view matters. But in geopolitics, the dead sometimes come back to life. And the resurrection came in 1980 with the election of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan entered the White House with a clear mission: to break the Soviet Union in the arms race. He looked at the project shelved by the previous administration and revitalized the program, but with crucial changes. That's how the B-1B Lancer was born. The Rockwell team changed the strategy. Instead of focusing on absolute maximum speed, they prioritized survivability. The speed was slightly reduced, but the plane's radar signature, its visibility to the enemy, was drastically decreased. They changed the engine air intakes, modified the structure, and applied radar-absorbing materials. The electronic warfare systems were upgraded to state-of-the-art standards. It wasn't completely invisible, like a fifth-generation fighter, but it was a flying tank optimized for sustained low-altitude penetration. The first B-1B entered service in 1986, and the Air Force bought 96 of these formidable machines. But the early years were hell. The plane suffered from reliability problems, low availability rates, and brutal skepticism from the US Congress. Many wondered if that monster justified the billion-dollar cost. And then, in a twist of fate, the Cold War ended. The Soviet Union collapsed in the 1990s. Suddenly, the United States had a fleet of extremely expensive nuclear bombers with no communist empire left to destroy. The agreements under the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, the famous START, imposed strict limits on the arsenals. And as part of this diplomatic chess game, the B-1 was gradually withdrawn from the nuclear mission. And by the mid-1990s, the aircraft was completely denuclearized. To the world, it became a relic of the Cold War. A dinosaur without a purpose. But if you think that removing the nuclear bombs made the plane useless, you don't understand the mentality of the American war machine. Without the weight of the atomic mission, was the B-1B unleashed? Yes, my friends. After the September 11th attacks, it was called to Iraq and Afghanistan. And what it did there went down in history. The B-1B dropped nearly 40% of all the bombs delivered by air in those wars. The crews carried out the longest combat missions in aviation history, flying for more than 15 uninterrupted hours with multiple aerial refuelings. Dropping precision fire on the terrorists, it stopped being a relic and became the greatest conventional workhorse of the United States. The structural stress was immense. The Air Force even sent several to the airplane graveyard. But the world would change again. With the rise of China and the aggressiveness of Iran, the Pentagon realized it couldn't discard the black sheep. And in recent years, the B-1B has received massive upgrades. It was transformed into the main test platform for the integration of air-launched hypersonic missiles. Weapons that fly at more than 5 times the speed of sound, which no current defense can stop. And the ultimate proof of its power is happening right now. The bomber was deployed in Operation Epic Fury, taking part directly in the devastating attacks against Iran's infrastructure. The B-1B Lancer won't retire as a museum piece. It will retire as a relentless enforcer of American foreign policy. A machine that survived politics, time, and its own limitations. And for you to understand the level of brutality we're talking about, the B-1B Lancer isn't just a big plane. It's powered by 4 General Electric F101 turbofan engines with afterburners. Even flying low, skimming the ground to evade radar, it reaches a speed of Mach 1.2, that's over 1,400 km/h, breaking the sound barrier at sea level. But the real capability lies in its payload capacity. The B-1B carries an impressive 75,000 pounds of internal armament. That's more than 34 tons of bombs and missiles. To put it in perspective, it carries much more lethal payload than the gigantic B-52, and twice as much as the stealth bomber B-2 Spirit. It's the biggest bomb truck in the entire United States Air Force, flying at supersonic speeds straight to the target. And understanding what really happens behind the scenes at the Pentagon and in the Middle East requires you to go beneath the surface. Mainstream media won't tell you the logistical and military details that determine who wins and who loses this game on the global chessboard. And that's exactly why I can't talk about it here. Guidelines and censorship limit us all the time, but there is a place where the truth has no filters. Our exclusive community is completely free from censorship, and it already has more than 3,000 members who are the real support base that funds and sustains the production of this hard-hitting content here on YouTube. There, we dissect geopolitics without restraints, without censorship. And so you understand that the war of narratives is also cultural, the QR code is appearing right now on your screen. The link is in the first pinned comment and in the description. We also created a channel for series and movies without woke culture, without whining, with wonderful recommendations for you to enjoy with your family, where fiction imitates life and life imitates fiction. A lot of things that are happening today were already predicted by movies. And I'm leaving you now with an impressive series about what's happening today in the war in the Middle East. So the link is here in the card. Just enjoy it. I'm Shimon Oliveira. Shield your mind. I'll see you in the next video. See you then.